Pete the Cat, Around the World Toronto Trip.
Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.
Pete the cat woke up early one sunny morning, stretched his paws and slipped on his bright red sneakers. "Time for an adventure," he said with a grin. Pete had a cool plan. He was traveling around the world, and his first stop was Toronto, Canada. Pete hopped onto a plane and soon arrived in the bustling city. As he stepped out, he was greeted by the CN Tower standing tall and proud. "Wow, that's one cool tower," Pete said as he admired the skyline. With his trusty backpack slung over his shoulder, he set out to explore. Pete found a bright red streetcar waiting at the stop. "Hop on," said the cheerful driver. Pete climbed aboard and looked out the window as the streetcar rolled along. He saw busy streets filled with people, colorful murals, and cozy coffee shops. "Toronto sure is groovy," Pete thought, snapping a picture of the graffiti-covered walls. A little boy sitting next to Pete smiled and said, "Welcome to Toronto. You should try some poutine." "Poutine? What's that?" Pete asked, curious. "You'll love it," said the boy with a laugh. Pete followed his nose to St. Lawrence Market, where the smell of delicious food filled the air. At a small food stand, Pete tried poutine for the first time. Crispy fries, topped with gooey cheese curds and rich gravy. "Delicious," Pete said with a happy grin, licking his whiskers. "I'm going to need the recipe for this." At the market, Pete also met a chef who taught him how to say thank you in French. "Merci, merci," Pete said with a smile, feeling like a world traveler already. Next, Pete wandered over to Nathan Phillips Square, where people were ice skating beneath the glow of city lights. Pete rented a pair of skates and wobbled onto the rink. At first, he was a little unsteady, but Pete didn't give up. "I've got this," he said confidently. Before long, he was gliding across the ice, spinning and laughing with the other skaters. "You're a natural, Pete," shouted a little girl who handed him a cup of hot cocoa. "Thanks," Pete replied. "This is one cool city." The next morning, Pete visited the Toronto Zoo. He met animals from all over the world: polar bears, kangaroos, and even a red panda. Pete especially loved the giraffe. "I wonder if they like wearing sneakers too," Pete joked as he sketched a giraffe in his notebook. Pete left the zoo with a new souvenir: a stuffed polar bear to remember his trip. As the sun began to set, Pete made one last stop: the waterfront at Lake Ontario. He sat on a bench, watching the boats sail by as the city skyline lit up behind him. The CN Tower sparkled like a giant disco ball in the sky. "This has been the coolest trip ever," Pete said with a contented sigh. As Pete packed up his things, he thought about all the new friends he'd made and the amazing things he'd seen. "Next stop, somewhere new," Pete said, slipping on his red sneakers. And with that, Pete the cat was off to his next adventure, spreading his cool vibes around the world, one city at a time. Moral of the story: exploring new places is fun and exciting, but the best part is making new friends, trying new things, and keeping an open mind. Let me know if you'd like more adventures added or any changes.